Tech features, weights and prices. Here is everything you need to know about the new Shimano Deore Di2, XT Di2 and XTR Di2. In this video, we're going to go through everything, explaining the differences between each group set, so let's dig into the details.
Shimano released the latest 9200 XTR Di2 wireless group set back in June, and then only 2 weeks later announced that they were going to do XT and Deore too, bringing that price right down. We did review XTR a few months ago, so click the link in the description if you want to see our full review, but it has taken quite a few months for Shimano to finally give us XT and Deore, and here they all are.
Now in this video, we're going to go through each component. We're going to work out the differences between each of the group sets. We're going to weigh them and we're going to let you know the prices as well. If you've got any questions along the way, please drop them into the comments. And obviously, if you're keen on seeing it being built and set up, please let us know.
So Shimano offer XTR and XT as full group set with brakes, wheels, gears, all that sort of stuff. There are a couple of sort of handover items like the chains, they don't really change. But when it comes to Deore, it's just shifter and rear mech pretty much that are new. You can use the old legacy stuff from Deore if you want to build a full Deore group set. What's nice about this though is plenty of cross compatibility and it's backwards compatible as well, which is really great in our opinion.
We're going to kick things off with the top of the tree, the XTR rear derailleur. Now Tom, you went on the launch when they brought this group set out, right?
Yep.
What can you tell us about the mech tech here?
The main differences that you're going to notice really is that the Deore has a steel cage, the XT has an alloy one, and XTR gets slightly lighter weight, it's carbon fibre. But generally speaking, the architecture is very similar. So there is no UDH, they do bolt onto a mech hanger as per usual for Shimano, and there is a B tension and a high and low adjustment on these so you can get the mech exactly where you need it. The batteries live inside the parallelogram, so you pull this little thing, pop that out, and then the battery sits in here. It's the same battery for all of the different derailleurs. So it doesn't look massively different in size to the SRAM batteries that go onto the back or into the inside of the parallelogram on a transmission derailleur, but it is a higher capacity. I think they said something like 30–40% more shifts. Frustratingly, with the price of these things, they don't actually include the battery and charger, which bit of a fudge. $39.99 for the battery, $29.99 for the charger. Same for all of them. We'll talk about the prices of the individual mechs in a minute. So they've got the new Shadow ES form factor, which is basically as low profile as possible, so it sticks out less from the rear axle than like a SRAM one does. And they're also chamfered at the front to try and like bounce off things.
Oh, to sort of glance rather than hang up.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly that. And it does have an automatic impact recovery system in there, so if it's sort of in a gear, you knock it, it'll disengage the motors from there so there's no damage, and then it'll go back to where you need it to be.
So a little bit like the overload clutch in a SRAM mech.
Exactly that. Shimano did have an on-off adjustable clutch. That has gone, okay? Probably one of the downsides, and you don't get like a cage lock on Shimano either, which SRAM has, which is a great little feature. But they've got a dual spring clutch kind of thing in here, so it's 2 springs instead of a clutch. The reason for that, they say, is that you get more consistent sort of tension as the mech moves through its arc, which in theory should help keep things a little bit quieter. So it's not like stiff and then unstiff. It's the same stiffness all the way through.
Consistent. Okay, that's cool.
And again, that's present in all 3 of the derailleurs. There are loads of options of derailleurs too. There's an e-bike version,
right,
which has a hollow parallelogram.
Oh, I see. So that's just hardwired straight in rather than having a separate one.
Exactly that.
Okay,
so
very cool.
It looks a little bit different. And that's present on XT and XTR. And they're available in 11 or 12 speed variants because of the whole link glide, like super durable e-bike drivetrains that are offered. When it comes to non-e-bike versions, there are again 2 different versions. There's the mid cage, which is this one, and the long cage, which is that one. So the mid cage is designed for the new cassette, which is 945, and the longer cage is for the traditional 1051 cassette, okay? And again, XT and XTR has those 2 options. The point of the 945, which does require a new free hub tool, but does mount onto a microspline free hub, is that you have a shorter cage,
so more ground clearance.
More ground clearance, and you run it with a smaller chainring. And I think they say you get 23mm more ground clearance. Really good for enduro races, especially if you're on a mullet. So as I said, the main differences between the 3 really comes down to, well, I'm sure there are differences in the materials used up here, but basically carbon, alloy or steel stamped cages. Now SRAM have got pretty cool jockey wheels.
Yes.
What's the deal with them?
Not all of them. Some of them will have that feature where if a stick comes in, the outside can still rotate despite the fact that the inside part of the jockey wheel being clamped.
Okay.
Because of that stick, allowing it just to rotate and not just explode your rear derailleur.
Right, so sticks go in, it jams up, everything keeps rotating. Solid jockey wheels, ain't no sticks getting in there. While you weigh them, I'll read out the prices.
Let's do it.
XTR. So XTR in the UK comes in at £549.99, plus of course the battery at £39.99 and the charger at £29.99, and it comes in at
390 grams.
390 grams.
Without the battery.
Should we chuck an XT on the scales?
What I will do, I did put a battery in here, so I'm going to take the battery out. XT is 450 grams.
So 60 grams weightier, and it comes in at £429.99, so £120 cheaper. If we look at Shimano Deore, this comes in at £374.99, so what's that, 55 pounds cheaper?
497 grams.
Okay, so 47 grams heavier.
Thank you. Right, moving on from the derailleurs, we're going to look at the shifters now.
Yes, so shifters, they have this sort of the usual I-Spec or I-Spec 2. I never really understand Shimano attachment system. So you can put it onto your brake levers, but they're also banned on clamps. There aren't many differences between the shifters, because the shifter is kind of just some buttons to wirelessly send it down to the rear derailleur, but there are a couple of subtle ones on here. So when it comes to sort of the position of the two paddles, XTR and XT, the paddles are on a little ball joint, so you can adjust the orientation of them to make sure it feels nice under the handlebar, and they can be swapped around because they're slightly different sizes and shapes, so you could mix and match as you see fit. There is also a third button here as well, which you can use to be programmed to do other things. So it does have a function within the Shimano ecosystem, but it can also be linked to things like your Garmin, I think Magic Shine lights, that sort of thing. So you could use it to control your Garmin or your lights, which is a nice little touch. I think more and more brands are being added to that. It's just a protocol thing. Now on the XTR one, which you don't get on XT, is this little switch here, which can be mechanically prevented from doing a single or a double click. So this will do 2 or 1, and you can limit that to just 1 if you want so mechanically. Shimano XT doesn't get that, and I think it has got a double click on that one.
But you can pre-program stuff on the eTube app, can't you? So you can, the orientation, which one does what, things like that.
Multi-shift as well.
Yeah, and you can change to multi-shift or back to dual single, whatever it is you prefer.
Now, if you want to look at the Deore one, which is obviously a little bit cheaper, that doesn't get the ball joint on there, so it's non-adjustable paddles, and you also don't get the 1 or 2 click mechanical sort of stop in there. But largely speaking, other than sort of a nice shiny finish on XTR, there isn't a huge amount of differences here within the shifters.
They're still textured, but you don't get the rubber finish that you do
with
on
XT
and XTR. Shimano have gone down the route of basically creating more of a traditional shifter rather than like we've seen on the SRAM, the pods with the buttons.
No, they feel like normal shifters, but obviously a little bit less thumb effort. It is actually a moderately stiff click on there. It's not like super light. You know, with the old, the original Access flapper.
Oh, you barely had to touch it, did you?
Yeah, this, you need to push it, and it clicks. It's quite like a good feedback on there. Right, let's weigh them. XTR first, 98 grams. And that's £184.99. XT comes in at 97 grams. Is that a gram lighter? It's also £25 cheaper at £159.99.
£25 a gram.
85 grams for Deore. So Deore is the lighter one, but it is also less adjustable, and it comes in at £124.99. So you're talking a solid £60 cheaper and about 10 grams lighter.
But I guess the point is, if you're happy with how it feels, why not go for it? Save some money and some weight. Right, that's derailleurs and shifters covered off. Let's go on to the cranks, which you should probably say there isn't a Deore one, is there? There
is no Deore one. You would have to use the M6100 cranks. Legacy stuff, but still actually looks really good. They're a good looking set of cranks.
And works great.
Yeah. I genuinely think the XTR cranks are some of the best looking cranks on the market. That's my opinion, and I know it differs from other people.
I love them, but I think they're cool.
They're pretty cool, yeah. There are 2 versions of the XTR cranks.
Yeah.
There's a trail and enduro version, which has a slightly wider Q factor and is slightly beefier, and a cross-country version too. and they come in lengths of 160 to 175 millimeters, and the chain rings come in at 28 to 36 teeth, I believe. HT2 has always been the case.
So Holotech 2.
Holotech 2, and even the XTR is back onto the little pre-tension thing there, and then a couple of bolts on the crank arm. Different from when they had the little ring on there, which quite a few brands used, and Shimano have gone away from it. I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest.
In terms of interface, it probably is the easiest to work on, right?
100%, yeah. 24mm spindle, so there is every bottom bracket option under the planet. Probably squashed. Chain rings mount onto a spline on the back of the crank arm, and then there's like a little lock ring there to hold it in place. Again, this is the 30 tooth version for that little extra bit of ground clearance on my sort of mullet enduro bike. This bit is blanked off and it sits clocked like this because if you're not running a bash guard, this just gives it a little extra strength if you bang it into things. Shimano XT has the same feature on its chainring as well. Not a huge amount of difference, but slightly lighter, and I think there's a couple more options with XTR than there is with XT, especially when it comes to sort of the XC version of the cranks. The other thing to note is that yes, these are aluminium, but I don't think that makes them particularly heavier. But the one downside of Shimano is that they do not offer a power meter version of the cranks, which if you're a cross-country racer especially, I think is a bit of an oversight. But even on the road, they don't offer that. You have to go for a stages or a different option, but it'd be great to see a Shimano power meter version of the cranks. Okay, so we are going to put these on the scales, but we are not comparing apples with apples. We're doing apples and oranges because this is a 165mm crank with a 30 tooth ring, and that's a 170 with a 32, so a slight difference there. But these XTR ones come in at 584 grams, and we are looking at $249.99 for the crank arms and $129.99 for the chainring. So 130 plus 250, 380 quid.
These are substantially cheaper though, right?
$149.99 for the arms and $64.99 for the ring. So you're looking at 215 quid basically.
607 grams.
607 grams, so a little bit heavier. Now obviously there isn't a brand new Deore one, but you're looking at £99.99 for the crank arms, and the chainring is actually $64.99 as well for Deore, from what I could see on UK distributor Freewheel's website.
Right, let's move on to cassettes. Now there's some cool tech going on here, right?
There is some cool tech. So we have two new flavours of cassette, well one new flavour of cassette really. 945 as we've mentioned before, and that requires a new mounting tool,
right,
which is only slightly different, but it will fit to your standard microspline free hub. So 92 to 45 gives it extra clearance, or if you want to run a big chainring or a big strong XC racer, you can have an even higher gear. And that's available again, XT and XTR, or you can run the standard 1051 cassette, which is what Shimano have been doing for a long time. There are some slight changes with what's going on in there. So I think the pin structure for the sprockets onto the carrier has been updated, so it's less likely to creak, which will be good news to some people.
Have they also added some material? Is it to the base of the teeth?
Yes,
is that right?
For a little bit extra stiffness when you're sort of shifting across the rings, just to sort of help build that sort of sturdiness into it. But I don't think there's any particular weight increase with them. Right, do you want to put XT on there?
Yeah, so I'm going to put this one on there. So that's the 1051 12-speed cassette.
With the plastic carrier, a couple of grams.
So that's 464 grams.
464, and that comes at 149.99, so 150 quid. Now for a mere extra 150 quid.
What? Go on, what are we going to save? Ooh.
329.
That's 135 grams.
135 grams for another 150 quid. But again, apple and orange, because that is the 945, not the 1051.
Yeah.
But there is quite a substantial weight saving there, which, you know, if you're really interested in bike performance, having a little bit extra or a little bit less weight on your rear wheel as it's bumping over bumps will make the suspension feel a little bit better.
Hopefully. Right, we've covered off the differences between XTR, XT and Deore. We've got the prices, we've got the weights wherever we can. Now, am I right in thinking they're offering upgrade kits as well, Tom?
Yeah, so you don't have to buy the whole group set. As I said at the start, they are backwards compatible with existing products. However, if you want to buy the mech, the shifter, and the battery and the charger, you can do so for XTR and XT as a package. And then obviously because Deore has only offered us those things, that kind of has its own price anyway. So XTR, $799.99, for the shifter, the mech, and all the chargers. XT is $649.99 for the same items. And Deore, if you want to buy the whole sort of Deore stuff, it's coming in at $569.99, there or thereabouts. So that is an upgrade price on whatever is existing on your bike.
We've obviously just chatted for ages about Shimano's latest wireless groups, but on screen now you'll be able to see a comparative table where we look at GX and XO just to give you some sort of idea about where they stack up against one another, prices, weights, that sort of thing.
So hit pause if you want to read that.
All right. Now Tom, can you just give us your top line pros and cons before we go?
Yeah, I mean, the big things that stood out to me was the shifter performance. Yeah. I really like the way it feels. I'm not a massive fan of those pods, if I'm totally honest. I love the ergonomics of the shifter, feels great. I like the option of the cassette down there. I've not ridden it in the 945 configuration, but in my mind, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. People are gonna say, oh, if it isn't direct mount, then it is gonna break quickly and easily. I'm not entirely sold on that. You know, it is a lower profile, it sticks out way less than the SRAM ones do, and there is tech in there to prevent it. Be interesting to see how long they really last in the field. So far, I'm pretty sure Alex hasn't broken his. And the cranks are beautiful.
Downsides though, any downsides?
Downsides,
Oh,
I have only ridden it for 2 full days. And I thought the shifting across the cassette was pretty darn good. I know Alex didn't think it was quite as good as transmission.
Okay.
And I guess having that extra stiffness from that full mount design on the SRAM stuff means that the shifting, and of course the timing of it across the block, is super accurate. Now, when he did review it, and when we've looked at transmission in the past, there has been a timing issue. It takes quite a long time for that mech to get across the cassette, but that has been fixed with a recent firmware upgrade. There's information about that in the description down below. We did a news story on Bike Radar. So I think actually those two things are a bit closer now, because with Shimano, it shifts when you want it to shift, not when SRAM wants you to shift.
We've already talked about Alex's amazing XTR review, so you can head down to the description and click on the link in there. Tom, you're going to be doing a full review on SRAM's Eagle 90, so their mechanical transmission group set, very, very soon. But if you can't wait for that, click here or around here somewhere and you'll be able to see our first look video on it. Now, obviously, subscribe, make sure you like the channel. Stay tuned, we're going to have loads more coming. I don't know what's going on, but just watch it!
Cut.